live from Huntertown, Indiana. It's Soarin on the air. And today we're going to have a different type of topic. So today we're here in the kitchen, and guess what? We're just preparing some food, so we go out there and feed our hawks. Our guys sit out there in those beautiful new pens that we have, and they don't have to worry about hunting. But you know what? Our birds outside, the wild ones, they all have to worry about hunting and how they find the food and how they dispatch the food when they get it. So come on, join me in the office and we'll talk about hunting and searching for food. So today's topic, everybody's gathered here, and we're going to talk about hunting. How do birds find their food? We essentially know some of it, but hunting is kind of a complex thing. It actually is two parts. There's searching for food, okay? And then once you find it, what do? You attack it, all right? And hopefully you're successful. And not every attack is successful, but the birds try hard. But our birds out here are spoiled. Now I'm going to show you some of the spoiled birds. Okay, so first we're going to talk about some hunting today, or searching. So, whoa, there goes the program. All right, rolling shots. Okay. So there's several different ways that birds hunt for food. So we have still hunting, we have fast contour hugging. We'll talk about that a little bit. We have high searching. We have slow quartering. Boy, they got some complex things. These raptor heads, they really come up with some really interesting titles. We have stalking. We have listening, of course. We have flushing. And then sometimes they get pretty sneaky. And while you see that there's a list here, no one bird uses only one technique. They use the techniques that work for them or are applicable at the time that they're out there looking for food. So the first thing is still hunting, okay? And of course we're familiar with that. Freckles, come on up here. We're going to talk about Freckles. Okay. Nicole's the one in the shirt. Freckles is the one in feathers. Okay. So this is Freckles. And of course he's a red-tailed hawk. This is a red shoulder here. But anyway, Freckles is one of these birds, sits up in a tree and just sits there and waits. And he just sits there and he looks, and if something moves, he says, looks like there's something there to eat. And if he can do it, he's just going to drop right down on it. Now, there's variations of still hunting. In fact, it's quite used mainly by forest birds. And so what he does is sit there for a while, and everything calms down out there. There's nothing moving around. So, so somewhere over there in the shrubbery or something like that, are some birds or some mice or something. So he'll fly over maybe 10 meters away to another branch and just sit there very still. Then maybe go to another 10 meters, sit there very still. And these guys usually hunt from a perch about 25 or 30 feet up. And then when there's good opportunity, just drop down on their prey, right? Right, Freckles? Okay. So that's still hunting. Just stay there and wait for food to come to you. It's kind of like what we do here. Our birds sit out there in the cages and they wait for us to bring the food to them. So they have a waiting service. Okay. All right. So we have still hunting, and another version of still hunting are the guys here are Harris hawks, and so Cheyenne, you want to come up here? Cheyenne. Okay. And so here's Cheyenne. Hi. How you doing? Okay. So this is Cheyenne, and she's a Harris hawk found out there in the desert southwest of the United States, and then down through the Mexico, Central America, down into South America. And one of the things these guys, they do still hunting too. So they sit up there. In fact, they quite often hunt as a group. So here they are. They'll stack up, looking like a kind of a funny-looking totem pole. Sit on top of it. Here, look. Okay. Yeah, okay. Didn't like that. Okay, she didn't recognize those guys. So here's another form of still hunting. And when the opportunity presents itself, then they take off and pursue their prey. So that is one version of hunting, and it's quite commonly used. But but as we know, when we watch the red tails or any of the other birds, sometimes they're out there hunting up in the air. Okay, so they're searching. Okay, they're searching for food. So we have what we call the high searching hunters. Okay, and so these guys, like our little kestrel friend. Where'd the kestrel friend go? Oh, there it is. Okay, so our little kestrel friend. Hi there, Tawny and Nancy. Okay, so Tawny is an American kestrel, and it's a female. And so what these guys do is they go up maybe about maybe 50, 60 meters, maybe a little higher than that, and they hover in the air. They depend upon the wind to lift them, and so they stand up there, hang there, hovering, looking down, and so they're up there high above where the food is, so that the prey doesn't necessarily see them up there. In fact, these guys look pretty small when they get up in the air like that. So they're up there high, but sometimes if there's no wind, to hold the birds aloft, they go back to still hunting. So they sit there on the telephone wire or the fence post or whatever, and they wait for food. So birds use combinations of hunting techniques. So, and then we have what we call quartering. Okay, so in this case, it's what they call slow quartering, and this is practiced by birds such as harriers and short-eared owls. And they go down slowly over the fields or something like that, maybe about 1-2 meters up. And so it's usually practiced by birds that are what they call low wing. Right, there we go. Low wing loading. I'll go get it. Low wing loading. There we go. Hey. So they have very wide wings, and they're very light critters, and so they have they tend to just lift on the wind, and they just slowly go across the field. Usually these guys come out there dawn and dusk when there's a slight breeze, and they go out there, and oh yeah, that's just too bad. We have one of our babies going to sleep on his mama's lap. Okay. It's a shame. So anyways, we have this slow quartering, and this is very similar to fast contour hugging. So a lot of you guys have probably seen Hooper's hawks and the sharpshins. My sharpshins are back. Okay, so I have them flying up and down my fence line now. So the sharpshins are back. They've abandoned Canada. They said it's getting too cold up there, and it's time to head south. So my sharpshins they're making their annual fall pilgrimage to our backyard where we have lots of bird feeders, and so they get a snack on the way. So they're stopping in there and taking care of my house finches. My house sparrows have departed. They've decided that they want to go into Fort Wayne, and so they've left. So now it's just the house finches, the goldfinches, and some of those guys are hanging around. And of course, the little sharpshins are going up and down the fence line, and it's a lot of fun because the sharpshins and the blue jays are getting into it now. The sharpshins chased the blue jays for a while, then the blue jays chased the sharpshins for a while. And it's about up and down the fence line, so it's a little bit of tail chasing. That's a term that we use with birds, okay? So we're not talking about humans there. And of course, one of the things we do is listening, okay? So a lot of, some of the birds, particularly the nocturnal birds, like our, wake them up, come on, bring the, Monet. Oh. Wake. Or you can bring up the screech owl. Okay, so we'll just. So I don't know who fell asleep. I don't know if it's Monet. So here's our little. Hi, how you doing? Yeah, Frankie. Okay, they're hard to tell apart. Don't let them know that. So Frankie and Sue here. So Frankie here has facial disc, which help to get the sound back to his ears. But he's a listener. So he sits up there, so he does a combination of listening and still hunting. So he sits up there listening, and head goes back and forth. Remember, they got 14 vertebrae, so they can twist their head almost all the way around and almost upside down. And so he sits up there, and when the time is right, he drops down on his prey, don't you? Yeah. Okay. So he does a combination of still hunting, all right, or still searching, and listening, And so Monet, why don't you bring Monet up here? So, so you can come on that side. Okay, so there's nothing like live TV.
I'm the first.
Okay, so Monet and Jill. And so Monet's a barn owl. And again, this typifies one of the birds that practices listening. And so there you are in the spooky TV or spooky movies, mystery movies, sitting up there on the church tower, okay, listening on the steeple, and then takes off and goes, yeah, I know, and almost an approximate imitation. And they screech across the ground in a slow swoop. They don't get a lot of speed up, these guys, So they rely on hearing, and then they figure out where the prey is going. They listen, and they track and they lead the prey, and they catch up with the prey. They intercept the prey, right? So you may not see the prey, but they can hear it. So listening is very important, and they're not the only birds that listen. Actually, all of these guys that we got here all listen. In fact, that's how you find nestfuls of little baby birds. They sit there in a tree and they hear beep, 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 about begging calls. And what they do, they react to the begging calls and they fly down and clean out the nest. And that's why you see all those blackbirds attacking the red tails, or other birds, because the blackbirds and the rest of them all know that these guys are going to invade their nest, okay? So listening, flushing is another technique that they use quite often, or mainly the Cooper's hawks and the sharpshooters, the accipiters, they do the flushing. So if they know there's a bunch of birds in a tree or something, what they'll do is they'll just plow into it, flush everybody out, and then pursue the slowest one, or one that they think that they can catch up with. So they flush out. So it's another technique for finding your bone. And then again, there's also the false attack. And I've seen this quite often. Peregrines just love the false attack. So what they'll do is they'll be flying up, maybe about 100 meters up or so. And what they'll do is they'll come across a mud flat that's just covered with shorebirds and other small birds. And what they'll do is all of a sudden they'll just go into a dive and into a swoop and come blasting across. And all kinds of birds just explode out of there, And then the peregrine goes, which one do I like, and selects one and goes after it. So it flushes all those birds up off the mud flat, and the birds flushing off the mud flat depend upon all the other birds to act as the target, okay? So what they're hoping is that if it's 100 birds going up, that they're not the one that's chosen. So kind of like people when they're in a panic, but everybody runs and hopes they're not the one that gets tagged, So anyway, so there's false attacks, and then after because they don't intend to catch anything on the ground, what they intend to do is catch it up in the air. So searching. So anyways, so that's essentially the different techniques that birds use for finding their prey. Searching it out, use a different technique. And actually, it's interesting that a lot of the birds, they start off with one technique, particularly if they're juveniles that take the easy techniques, like the red tails, they learn to drop. So they do the drop thing, they drop down, get their food real easy before they learn to pursue food, Pursuing food is a lot of work, because you got to come up, flying up behind it. So there's different techniques we use. We use direct flying, which means you just fly at the target, Indirect flying, that means what you do is you go out there, you see your prey over there, and what you do is you just kind of go around the corner and then come back and get it. So in other words, you detect the prey, you know what you want, so what you do is you go out, at right angles or something like that. So it's kind of like some of the strategies or tactics that we use that people use in battles and stuff like that. You go off to the sides and then come around behind, that kind of thing. So there's all kinds of things. So it's indirect flying. Tail chasing, that's when you flushed out the bird and now you're pursuing it, okay? One of the neatest things I ever saw was a peregrine. We were on a ship going into the Falkland Islands, and we're about maybe 10 kilometers off. There were white-rumped sandpipers flying ahead of us, heading toward the islands. and all of a sudden this peregrine comes zapping over top of us and went, right up, that, I felt sorry for that white room sandpiper, but it just took it right there in midair and just kept on going right towards Stanleyville. So, so it was like,
Wow.
and it's just amazing some of the things that you see. That's why if you go any of these birding trips or anything, always keep your eyes open, always stay outside, get up at dawn, hope somebody brings you lunch, and go to bed at dusk, so or the other things like we say, you can always sleep on the plane on the way back, there's no time for sleeping when you're out there bird watching, okay? So, even though I've been known to kind of doze off somewhere around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but that's all right. The birding has slowed down a little bit. So there's tail chasing, there's the glide, that's a kind of a technique that's particularly used by like the red-tailed hawks and that kind of thing. And they just slowly glide down across, it's minimal movement, okay? Maybe you'll see a little bit of moving from side to side as, a little bit of twisting or a little bit of yawing as they come down, but they make very, very little motion. That way they don't alert the prey so much, the prey guys are, wonder what that is, and they're gone. So there's gliding, and of course there's the drop, go, dive, and stoop. Okay, so that's typically, drop off a perch, dive toward your item, and now a dive means typically tucking the wings in so you gain speed, okay, and you go into the stoop and pull out, and you go and pursue your prey. Deception, and again, this is where you kind of act like, I don't see you down there. I don't see anybody, you just kind of casually fly by, and maybe you might circle around like you're a turkey vulture. In fact, some of the guys like Cheyenne, okay, and some of the other raptor hawks will actually imitate vultures. In fact, one of the neatest thing is bat falcons that are found down in Central America and North and South America. Bat falcons will actually go into a flock of bats, okay? And what they do is they get the same wing beat as the bats, okay? So they're flying, they have the same wing beat, and they kind of insinuate themselves into the bats that are flying out. And then before somebody knows it, they grab one.
Wow.
And then take back off. So they can be deceptive, so that's kind of a neat thing. So so you get the bat falcons and the orange-breasted falcons come out. About the time the bats are coming out of the caves, and they insinuate themselves into the flock. Another form of a real interesting combination is, remember I talked about still flying or still searching. Quite often our friends the peregrines do that. They'll find a nice tree that's sitting out over a valley or a canyon, and they'll just sit up there. And when pigeons or something like that are flying down below them, they'll just sit there and then they'll just drop off the perch, okay? Hardly any propelling, let gravity do all the work, And it's really neat to watch these guys because when they fly out, if you watch them, if you get to see some videos, well, look at their wing shape, okay? Their wing shape is not out like that. It's curved back. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's diamond shaped. If you look at a peregrine, it's in a swoop. It's actually a diamond shaped pattern. Same as our F-35s. Just take a look at those things. Same type of thing. And so they gain lots of speed, and then they get their guys up. And then groups, we talked about Cheyenne and how they go out there and hunt in groups. So we have the attack. Okay, so we've seen some of this, where we, one of the last things a mouse sees. Okay. So anyway, so here's a typical attack. So the talons are out, ready to go after their prey. They've tucked in the wings a little bit. And at this point here, he's come down, he's got speed up, and now he's starting to slow down because you don't want to crash into the ground going 30 miles an hour. So right at this point, wings have, he's got his speed built up, and now he's starting to flaps down and starting to get the approach to, getting. And of course, this is the drop attack. Okay, that's usually used by like our ferruginous hawk there. Had to see what it was. Anyways, ferruginous hawk, which is similar to our red-tailed hawk. And again, this is just the bird flies across, bunny sitting there in the grass, minding its own business, and drops down right down on top of it and takes it. So So that's another form of attack. And of course, we talked about the peregrines, So the peregrines, again, get those wings kind of tucked in, aerodynamic, and it's just really the nuttiest thing to watch, Watch these guys. I got to see one down in fact, the faux attack that we talked about a little bit. So down in Australia one time, we were in a park. There was a place where they were selling popcorn, lots of pigeons around and everything. And this bird came flying by us, okay? About maybe 20 feet up, flew by us, circled around us, and he came so close. He was about as close as me and Sue there, okay? And he just, all of a sudden, just at the last minute, dove down across where the pigeons were. Pigeons exploded out of the place, okay? But you know what? He didn't take any, okay?
Oh, no?
No, he just kept flying around, flying away, but he did a victory roll. He tucked one wing in, and he just did a little victory roll and said, did you see that?
Wow.
So that's what makes me believe in reincarnation. I think some people come back as birds. And so he was a show-off. But it was a deceptive attack, He just went down there and just blasted them out of there. And it was kind of fun to watch all these pigeons just exploding. But what I want to know is, why did he come all the way around us and watch? He came in close, and so I don't know. I think he was showing off. So
Probably.
so anyways, there's your religion for the day. We believe in reincarnation. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, come on. And of course, we have things like our bald eagles. Bald eagles, are fish eaters, okay, or they're also carrion eaters. And again, they have extremely good eyesight. All these birds have extremely good eyesight. So a lot of times, if you get up there to some of the lakes around here during the summertime, you can watch the eagles going out hunting, and they'll sit in a tree, okay, still hunting, okay, or still searching, and use that eyesight to see where there's fish coming to the surface. So they watch out there, watch for the surface breaking, because the fish are coming up to grab bugs or something like that. And then they'll just descend off that tree and just maybe just feet above the water, just come sailing across. And then as they get to where the fish are, they'll slow down, wings out, flaps down, talons down, and snatch a fish right off the surface. They're not always successful. They're probably about 50% successful, so they're not getting them every time. But this differs from the ospreys. Ospreys are high searchers, so they're up high and they're flying across. They look down to see the fish, okay, coming up near the surface, and then they just drop, okay, tuck in the wings, drop down, and at the last minute, out go the wings, down go the talons, and grab it, And it's really neat. I was down in South Carolina swimming out in the ocean, and there were fish around us, and I had my snorkel on, and we could actually see the ospreys actually go underwater for a while as they took the fish down, and then of course they came back up, and they're buoyant, and up they go back up into the air. So really a neat effect, And finally, if you got your prey, you go out there and you talon it and everything, you've done all the droppings too, but sometimes you just gotta stomp them. Okay, so this is a secretary bird down in Africa. Okay, and when you find your prey, what do? If it won't stand still, you stomp it. Okay, so here's the secretary bird out there stomping its prey. So sometimes they, it's a lot of times they take insects and things like that. Sometimes they take snakes, and sometimes they take garden hoses. so somebody lost a garden hose on this deal. But anyway, so there's all kinds of techniques that these birds use, and they use different combinations. But it's always fun to go out there and just watch the birds, just see what they're doing, just see how adaptive they are. So the things like contour flying, watching them hedge hop across a field or something like that. So they come up, they fly low, up over the hedges and stuff like that. Sometimes one of the neat things that they do is they'll come do that contour flying, and they'll go along a hedge, and if they can hear that there's birds up ahead, what they'll suddenly do is they'll just flip over the hedge, okay? Up, over, and down the other side, and all of a sudden they got birds flushing, and they got a meal in sight, and birds scatters and panics and stuff like that, and they go after them. So there's all kinds of techniques that they use. That's similar to techniques that some of his people use in tactics and strategies for doing, in warfare, that kind of thing. And hunters use them. I mean, we have, still hunting, guys put up a tree stand or something like that. They sit up there and they wait, Kevin, Celeste's husband, he sits there and he's in his tree stand. Doesn't get a whole lot, but he says he sees nature up close. He's had great horned owls come up, take a look at them, check them out.
Wow.
So that's a really kind of neat thing. Chickadee sitting on his barrel of his gun. Okay. I mean, it's kind of like, so we, so hunters use a lot of these techniques. Same thing with going around, taking a circuitous route to get on the best side of their prey, so the sun's behind them, okay? So the sunlight is all fully on their prey, so they can see it. So hunters, wise hunters, do the same things that the birds do out there. How to search for your prey, and then how to attack your prey. So it's really, every time you go out there, look, you're going to see something different, I'll tell you. And a lot of times the birds aren't all that bashful when we're around because they're fixated. They're fixated on what they're doing. So they tend to ignore us a little bit. If we're really not doing any kind of thing that imperils them, they can kind of know that, And one of the things also, because we are predators, eyes in front, predators hunt. A lot of times when you're watching your birds, your hawks and stuff like that, don't stare at them, okay? Just observe them, you can get those binoculars out, but don't forget those binoculars look like big eyes, So, take a look, but sometimes if you just step back, you can see the whole picture, and you can watch the thing. I think somebody was telling me about a red-tailed hawk chasing a squirrel, and the squirrel went on the tree, started running around the tree, and a red-tailed hawk was running around. So sometimes prey knows how to avoid things. Avoid being. So he said he watched that for about 5 minutes. So sometimes it's really neat the stuff that happens out there, like the peregrine. Oh.
Well, you eat, you gotta.
Okay.
You gotta go somewhere.
Well, what the heck? All these guys are okay. Yeah, I know. No, good for you. Okay. Yeah, we've had we're dirtying up the floor a little bit, but that's all right. Yeah, we'll have the cleanup crew come in later. We got a snow shovel for it. So anyways, when you're out there, look, observe. Don't be intrusive. Okay, don't try to intercept it. And because, like I said, birds become so fixated on their hunting and stuff. I've had Cooper's hawk fly right past me as he just nailed a cardinal, just carried it right past my head.
Wow.
Because they're so fixated, and that's why a lot of our guys get injured, because they're so fixated on their prey. They run into cars, or cars run into them, things like that. So yeah, so it's so sometimes you just got to be, know what's going on around you, that kind of thing, and do be prepared to duck out of the way. Okay. But some of these guys, you take a red-tailed hawk, they only weigh about 3 pounds, but 3 pounds at 30 miles an hour can kind of mess you up a little bit, and so you don't want to interfere. In fact, when I was doing this research, I saw pictures of photographers being attacked by eagles. Just take some care, okay? Don't get in the way, okay? Don't be intrusive. Respect nature, and nature will respect you. But I figure anybody, there was one guy who had skid marks on his head from talons, so it's kind of like you don't have to do that kind of thing. So anyways, that's my pitch for today. Anybody got any questions?
No
Did
questions.
I do such a fantastic job?
Yay!
Oh, gee whiz. Okay. So commercial time. Okay, commercial time. Okay, you have only a day and a half left. A day and a half left to get your 2021 calendar from Soarin Hawk. Okay, so you have until midnight tomorrow night, all right, to get those orders in, and the orders are pouring in. I don't know, I've lost count of how many orders we've had, but it's well in over 200 orders.
Great.
So so we have a lot of people out there. I think the furthest one is England so far. So it's but we've had some in California and other places, but
New
England's
Jersey.
a little bit further out there. Jersey, Jersey's far out there, anyways. That's another story.
Hey.
Welcome, Joycey.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, don't forget to get your calendar, okay? Get on our website. And we're doing we're getting back into the program mode. Uh-oh. What happened? There it is. Okay. So we have a lot of programs coming up that are open to the public. Okay.
Great.
So you can see here, let's see, what we got. The next one coming up is, let's see, the homeschoolers are going to be over at Huntertown Park, okay, just down the road here, 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's going to be a little early, but we're going to have, so far, at least 20 families have signed up for this, and you don't have to sign up, just show up, all right? So park there along Woods Road, you know, and we'll be across there at the amphitheater, and I've been told that the bathrooms will be open, okay, so you don't have to use those trees, but anyway, it'll be out there, 9 o'clock, you know, come along, bring your kids, you know, and I don't think the homeschoolers will mind if we have a few more people show up. I think today we did a program with some the older people over there in Lakeside, and people were bringing their kids up, you know, like, we're there, we want everybody to enjoy and to see things, so let's see what else we have here. On that night, I think we have, no, sorry, that's a week later. Okay, so on Saturday the following, we have a Halloween walk at the old Auburn Hotel. And I understand that it's a real spooky place. So Jill Devine will be there to guide people through the haunted house. And in the meantime, we're going to be in a nice warm lobby. Okay, we won't be standing outside. So we'll be in the warm lobby with our owls. So come over there and you can see us. And she's going to be running 3 walks during that time. So, you know, so go on all over 5:30. Let's see, the following Thursday, we're going to be up at Chain of Lakes. It's going to be our final program up at Chain of Lakes for the year. And we're going to be at the Sunnyside Shelter. You know, so all the campers and everybody is welcome to come out. I guess they'll have probably some Halloween treats and stuff like that up there for people. And then what we got the following Friday, we have, Halloween in the Park right down here. And this is going to be starting at 5:30. We're going to be in the park here, the Huntertown Family Park. So come on over. We're going to be one of about 15 stations there. And so we're going to have a little bit of fun out there. And then also we're going to do it again Saturday. If we didn't do it well enough Friday, we're going to do it again Saturday, again 5:30. And then out there in Pearson, Indiana, we're going to be doing the Tippecanoe Audubon Society annual dinner. And it's going to be an outside event. As I understand it, there's going to be chili and soup available along with some other snacks. So, you know, and anytime there's free food, we show up. Okay. So, but you do have to let them know. So go on the website, Tippecanoe Audubon, and you can sign up. You know, so at least that way we'll have enough chili. As I understand it, the volunteers here, they get first dip. Okay, we get, you know, usually we end up getting the last dip, but this time I've been guaranteed that we're going to, you know, by Casey Jones out there, that we're going to get first dip, okay? And then let's see what else we got. And then into November on Arms to Stay, we have another homeschool program out here at the Huntertown Family Park. So we're going to be probably trying to do at least once a month. We're going to be doing something out at the Huntertown Family Park. You know, and it's free, it's open, you know. But if you want to come along and you want to get rid of those old musty $50 bills that you have in your wallet or pocketbook, you can do those. You can just dump those on us. We know how to clean them up, okay? Right? Yeah, so we know how to take good care of them, because all that money that we collect all goes to taking care of our birds out here and taking care of them, repairing them, you know, rescuing them, all that kind of thing, and getting them out there. So nobody has any questions. Have I done that?
No, no questions.
I don't know. This is terrible. Okay. So you want to see a couple of the birds? Okay.
I
So
do
guess
have
we can get
to
some close-ups of
say-
birds and people.
I do want to say one thing, that if anybody's been hearing some grunting behind me, it's not Jeannie, it's Cheyenne. Cheyenne has been very talkative during this. I think she thought it was a dual conversation with Bob. So,
Yeah.
She's putting her 2 talons in.
yeah.
Yeah, we converse. Oh, I forgot that one. Oh, I forgot. Oh, wait a minute. Halloween. I forgot Halloween at Gene Stratton Porter. That's also, that's what, Friday night, isn't it? Saturday night. Oh, I forgot that one. So, yeah, go out to Gene Stratton Porter up there at Rome City. Okay, it's Halloween. They'll have all kinds of things. And if you're lucky and get there on time, there will still be candy in our bowl. Okay? Along with our birds. So I'm sorry I forgot that one. I don't know how I did that. Bad Bob. Okay. So anyways, we're getting our season going again. So yeah, Gene Stratton Porter, that's a lot of fun up there. They'll have the buildings open, so you go and look at some of the displays inside the building, and it starts at 5:30. It's 5:30 to 7:30, and think what?
I think so.
That sounds about right. I think 5:30 to 7:30. So it's a lot of fun going up there to Gene Stratton Porter, and so we'll have a lot of things. So if we're lucky, you'll see us out there in that gazebo, and with our birds, and you can walk up. And if you're lucky, there's still going to be a few treats left in our candy bowl. Remember that, True? Okay. So there's so there's always stuff. You can always look on our website to see what events are running. But those are the public ones that we have. We have a few that are now in schools, or at schools, I should say, because we're trying to do all our programs outside. Okay, and the weather's nice. It's good out there, and so we're going to be doing a lot of outside events, and so you don't have to worry about being inside. But so, anyways, I told you about the private ones or the public ones. So no questions.
No questions.
No questions. How are we doing for time?
It's about quarter of.
Quarter of. Okay.
Oh, it's 10 of.
10 of. Oh, I gotta go to school.
Yeah, you have a class.
I have a class, so I gotta go to school. I'm still being trained. Got past the potty training, but so anyways, we'll see you next week. And I don't know what next week's topic is, but if you guys have a question about something, phone it in, okay? Or let us know, and so we have another topic, and we can go exploring a little bit, and we can see some of these pretty birds and some of our pretty volunteers. Okay? I got a laugh back there. so I'll see you next week, and so I gotta go to school.
Yep.
Hey, Don, okay.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And I didn't say any bad words this week.